Working with Hamas against America, the terrorist group's official hinting at a possible anti-U.S. coalition with Iran, Russia, and China.
The day may come when they join the way together and turn America into a thing of the past.
Australia's Prime Minister stepping foot in China for the first time in 7 years. What's on the agenda for his meeting with Xi Jinping? Foreign money is fleeing China, and now foreign direct investment has hit a new low. China just clocked a deficit in the measure for the first time since records began. And 2024 presidential candidates taking a hard stance on China, with some calling the country an enemy of the United States. What do you think of the remarks? Let us know below and subscribe if you haven't already. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Don Ma in for Tiffany Meyer today. Is China a neutral player in the ongoing Israel-Hamas war? Here's what a Hamas official is saying about China's ties to the terrorist group following the bloody attack on Israel.
The Chinese sent envoys to Doha, and China and Russia met with the leaders of Hamas.
The senior Hamas member made the remarks during an interview with the Lebanese news channel last Thursday. Back in October, Hamas representatives met with Russia's special envoy and Iranian deputy foreign minister in Moscow. China's special envoy to the Middle East also traveled to Qatari capital Doha on October 19th. Doha is home to Hamas's leader and other members of the group's leadership. Beijing has provided no details on the trip. As for what's behind the alleged diplomatic moves, the Hamas official made a bold statement, alleging a potential anti-U.S. alliance among, quote, all of America's enemies.
The day may come when they join the way together and turn America into a thing of the past.
The official's claims comes amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. There's also a growing movement to push back on the Western-led global order and rule of law involving countries like Iran, Russia, and China. Plus, Hamas now has another potential ally, North Korea. In the interview, the Hamas official praised Pyongyang for its alleged ability to strike U.S. soil, referring to the regime as, quote, part of our alliance. Israel earlier said the terrorist group used North Korean weapons in their October 7th attack, killing over 1,400 Israelis. Pyongyang denied the allegation. As of now, neither Russia nor China have condemned the Hamas terrorist attack. China has refrained from describing Hamas as terrorists and has put pressure on Israel to stop bombing Gaza. A former Hamas leader earlier claimed that Beijing is taking notes on their terrorist attack and could replicate it for Taiwan. Are young people supporting Hamas because of TikTok? That's the case a congressman is making, saying the U.S. should completely ban the Chinese platform. NTD's Arian Pazdar spoke with an expert on Chinese propaganda.
Congressman Mike Gallagher wrote an op-ed for the Free Press, saying many young Americans support Hamas because of TikTok. He cited a poll which says that over half of college-aged Americans say Hamas attacks on Israel on October 7th were justified. Gallagher wrote that a growing number of Americans rely on TikTok for their news. Today, TikTok is the top search engine for more than half of Gen Z. Official numbers from TikTok show that posts with the hashtag Free Palestine are getting around 17 times more views than posts with the hashtag Stand with Israel. This may come to no surprise, as former leader of the Palestine Liberation Organization, Yasser Arafat, visited China 14 times before he died. He met with CCP leaders, including Mao Zedong and Jiang Zemin. Congressman Gallagher wrote, "We know for a fact that the CCP uses TikTok to push its propaganda and censor views that diverge from the party line." And he concludes by saying that completely banning TikTok in the US protects our public square from the surveillance, malign influence, censorship and propaganda of a foreign adversary. Now, to learn more about China's online propaganda campaign surrounding the Israel-Hamas war, I spoke with Jake Denton. He's a research associate in the Tech Policy Center with the Heritage Foundation. Denton tells me China is using this war to emerge as a more influential power than the United States. Take a look.
So when they have the ability to either diminish the role of the United States or to, target another Western country, it's to their advantage to push content that promotes the alternative view, one that makes China look more respected. And
Denton says he agrees with the congressman that TikTok should be banned completely. He also warns if Congress doesn't take the necessary steps, it could have a long-lasting impact on the United States, being shaped by information coming from the Chinese Communist Party.
what that results in is a generation that doesn't value the United States, that really doesn't like our own way of government. And so what you have is potentially a generation of citizens who identify closer with China's worldview than our own. And there's no telling of how that ends for us.
He says the United States is already seeing the impact of this among young Americans, and that it will only get worse if things don't change. Ariane Pastar, NTD News.
China has become a hot topic among presidential hopefuls. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Friday criticized former United Nations ambassador and South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley for her record on China. He accused her of rolling out the red carpet for Beijing.
Her record is writing the Chinese ambassador love letters saying like how great a friend China is. No, they're not a friend.
But former Governor Nikki Haley denies those accusations. She says she views China as an enemy and that China has been practically preparing for war with the U.S. for years. Other than DeSantis and Haley, presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy is also taking a tough stance on China.
I see a lot of other candidates. Many of them will be on that debate stage, dancing around the really difficult issues we need to answer. How do we advance American interests? How do we focus on our real adversary, Communist China, and declare independence from them, while staying out of World War III, which we are closer to any time in my lifetime than we've ever been?
The third Republican presidential primary debate is scheduled for Wednesday in Miami. A California congresswoman asking entities worldwide to pull support from a Chinese logistics platform. In a recent letter, Congress member Michelle Steele argued the platform could give the CCP a roadmap to gain a stranglehold on the arteries of global trade. She added that its data could help Beijing identify transportation paths to control the movement of goods, and that using it is actively risking our national security and the security of our allies. She's calling attention to Log Inc. It was constructed and put into use by several Chinese state ministries and is used by shipping ports around the world. The platform linked with International Port Community Systems Association in 2017. And later, it joined the world body's network of trusted networks in 2022. According to the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review, Log Inc. has cooperation agreements with at least 24 ports, free ports and port operations outside of China, including 9 in Europe. Instead, she's introducing a bill that would direct U.S. departments to work with international government organizations to develop an alternative, secure platform. Australia's Prime Minister is meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. It's the first time for Albanese to visit China after he took office in 2022. What is Australia expecting to get out of the visit? And what does it mean for China? Let's dive in.
As the West swings from decoupling to de-risking with China, a close U.S. ally, Australia, is attempting to take one step closer toward Beijing. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese met with Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Monday in Beijing. He zeroed in on increasing trade with China.
China is our most important trading partner. It represents more than 25% of our exports, and 1 in 4 of our jobs relies upon our trade. So it's an important relationship.
China also set a positive tone during the meeting. Xi said the two countries now share a sound and stable relationship. Signs of a thaw between them started showing weeks ahead of the meeting. Beijing released an Australian reporter last month after 3 years in detention, while Canberra opted to keep leasing a significant port to Beijing, despite U.S. protests over security concerns. Looking back on the China-Australia relationship, it plunged to a record low 3 years ago amid the pandemic. At the time, Australia's then Prime Minister called for an international probe into the origins of the virus. In retaliation, Beijing imposed a series of penalties on Australian imports, worth roughly $14 billion. They covered goods from wine to coal. A few Australian reporters were also arrested in China for investigating the pandemic, and one was thrown into Chinese prison for 4 years.
And a first for China's financial market, a quarterly deficit in foreign direct investment. Based on balance of payments data, the country saw an $11.8 billion deficit from July to September. It's the first ever quarterly shortfall since China's foreign exchange regulator started recording the data in 1998. China has seen capital outflows surge in recent months. Experts point to the country's large interest rate disadvantage, as well as a wave of Western countries looking to de-risk from China and shift toward other countries. The plunge comes alongside a record low for China's currency in October, with trading volume for the yuan against the dollar falling over 70% since August. An American consultancy is waving goodbye to its China operations after 30 years. Why? Let's take a look.
Washington-based consultancy Gallup is the latest in a growing trend of Western businesses to flee the country. According to a Financial Times report, the company is shuttering 3 offices inside China. It also notified clients that it would shut down some of its China-based projects while relocating others. Gallup launched its China business back in 1993, opening offices in Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen. It offers research services to help companies grow their brands. The announcement comes as investment manager Vanguard closes out its own exit from China, with reports saying Shanghai office and most remaining staff there will leave by early next year.
On the other hand, U.S. officials are talking up the potential for agricultural trade with China. That's while attending a trade fair in Shanghai. Here's more.
U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns cut a ribbon to open the event. This was the first time the U.S. has participated since it began in 2018. Burns reiterated that Washington was not seeking to decouple from China.
We seek to move forward in two-way trade between the United States and China. Now, we are de-risking, altering supply chains in critical materials and minerals in some cases, but that's because that's the smart thing to do post-pandemic. And of course, China has been de-risking as well.
Visitors sampled food products sourced from the U.S. A senior trade and agriculture official said China is a top market for U.S. agricultural products. Oilseeds and grains are the top U.S. export to China, accounting for over $25 billion last year. But Brazil has been eating into the U.S. share of the Chinese market, following bumper soybean and corn harvests.
And that's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for more than 2 years. Last month, YouTube removed our demonetization status but reimposed it within days. China in Focus makes no revenue on YouTube, something that has continued since the beginning of 2021. Despite these challenges, we are devoted to bringing truthful news about China to our audience. If you would like to support us, subscribe to our partner platform Epoch TV, where you can watch our full episodes. To sign up, click the link down below or consider donating. Find us at donorbox.org/China-in-focus, or just follow the link in the description box below. Here's what to look out for in our second half on Epoch TV. The FBI director with an alarming message to U.S. senators, all about cyber threats from China. That's as the Biden administration strives to take the lead on artificial intelligence regulation with a new order. Will the directive be enough to address the Chinese AI threat? And how does the Chinese Communist Party use AI to influence and weaken a free society? We sat down with Rex Lee, cybersecurity advisor at My Smart Privacy, for details.
Imagine that we're already allowing Chinese companies to do this much surveillance and data mining on U.S. citizens, and then you overlay AI to it, and then the threats become even larger to the end user.
Thank you for watching China in Focus. I'm Don Ma, and for Tiffany Meyer, have a great day.